These videos are based on my book called Intergalactic Resettlement, Meet the New Neighbors. I am writing this book to share with you my paranormal experiences and to introduce you to the Intergalactic Resettlement program. It is my hope that this information will comfort those with similar experiences and inspire others to open their minds to alternative realities which benefit humankind. In 2017, my spiritual guides told me that it was time to come out of the closet and make public my ET experiences and the knowledge I received as a result. My goal is not to convince anyone about my truth, but rather to educate those who are open to this information. It is important to note that I do not represent the beings from the Intergalactic Resettlement program in any way, and I am not their spokesperson. I only speak to what I know and experience for myself. I've been encouraged by my spiritual guides to provide information so that people can make up their own minds about the options they may choose from for dealing with future world events. The Intergalactic Resettlement program may become an option when our physical planet is in crisis or transitioning, making it not safe to live here anymore. With all of the exopolitical contact that we hear about, it is important for you to know that I am not part of any Earth-based group, religion, politic, or philosophy, and I am not part of the secret space program. I wish to stress that there is nothing to be afraid of. These off-world beings are absolutely benevolent and loving. They have a do no harm mandate, and they do not interfere with human free will. Further, I do not know species or racial names, planet names or group names, and my ET friends are not from any specific star system. This is an unorganized, frequency-based movement. When we are ready and reach out spiritually, contact commences. For those of you who don't know, my name is Karen Holton. I'm a shamanic guide, a spiritual coach, and I have a talk show called The Quantum Guide Show, available on YouTube and Odyssey, and Forbidden Knowledge News and other social media platforms. The Intergalactic Resettlement Program, Meet the New Neighbors. If you haven't done so already, I encourage you to go back and watch the video previous, at least the two previous videos, Chapter 1, clarification, and also Chapter 2, where I talk about my history and my background and some of the things that I believe have led me to meet the beings that offer the resettlement program. So this is Chapter 2, Part 2, my paranormal history. And I'm going to start off with my adult contact. Once I was in my 20s, I was feeling socially isolated, so I joined a fundamentalist Christian religion. I got married, I had babies, and I attempted a normal life. I was looking for truth everywhere except not within. And I saw so much shameful hypocrisy within my religion. Due to ignorance, stigma, and the shunning practices of the congregation, it was not safe for me to tell the truth about my paranormal experiences. I even got confused as to whether I was imagining things, as I had embedded myself into a religion that taught that paranormal experiences were the work of Satan. I actually developed significant health issues from keeping this part of me suppressed. This part of me, or this part of my life. But after I left religion for good, it was in the 1990s, and I realized that there was so much evidence to support my paranormal experiences that there was no way that I could have imagined it. This led to a deep personal and spiritual crisis. You might say I really went deep down that well of the dark night of the soul. And yeah, I had to do a lot of processing. At the same time, I was going through some really tough life lessons and I was consumed with grief and sadness. This significantly lowered my vibration, and I became imprinted by the spirit of a man who had killed himself while living in the house that I was now renting. I know this is true because a couple of years later, I made friends with a woman who told me that she knew the mother of the man who had killed himself, who lived in the unit that I was renting at the time. Otherwise, I never would have had this experience validated. But yeah, I did have it validated later on. So the man committed suicide in a very, very specific way. And that was actually the very same way that I was also influenced to die. So the way it worked for me was when my frequency, when my energy got really, really low because I was in so much grief and sadness, I somehow tapped in to this guy and the way he was feeling before he committed suicide. And actually, his act of suicide, I actually got imprinted, and it was like I was obsessed with killing myself. And the specific way that I had planned to off myself is this very same way that I found out 2 years later, the man who had killed himself in my unit, or in the unit I was now living in, how he did it. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So I was about to off myself, and this led to my profound angelic experience, which changed my life forever. I had what I call an explosive vision of angels. What I mean by explosive is it just happened spontaneously, and it was involved everything: sight, sound, body sensation, in every aspect. This was a very intense vision that I had, and it was of angels, and they looked like little points of light everywhere, with the light flashing out the sides like wings. It was very, very beautiful. And they all spoke as one. One voice sounded as 1,000 voices, and all of them were speaking exactly in unison. And the angels appeared, as I mentioned, as points of light, with light flashing out either side, giving them the appearance of wings. Gabriel, the Archangel, came to me. And he is the only one that identified himself to me. The rest, I wouldn't be able to even distinguish between him and the other beings that were with him, or the other angels that were with him. So I'm not really sure exactly what I was experiencing. But their message really woke me up to some very different life possibilities. And it was then that I realized we have tremendous value. And this is why angels are so interested in us, and they deeply love and cherish each and every one of us. I learned that the beings from the angelic realms love us unconditionally, and there's nothing we can do to change this. All we have to do is to have a willing spirit and make first contact to initiate the relationship. At that level, all parts of our life journey are sacred and fuel for soul evolution. We are intimately known, and nothing is hidden from these ones. So regardless of whether you think your life was a train wreck, or whether it went reasonably well, or if you regret the mistakes you've made, all of those things happened as part of your soul evolution while you're here in this lifetime. And so the angels do not, judge us. They don't, avoid us because of wicked things we may have done or said or thought. It doesn't work that way at all. So Gabriel told me that I could die if I wished to, because there are exit points that each human can use. And when the going gets too rough for us to handle, we can check out. Life is not meant to be unbearably painful. Gabriel alluded to the point that suicide is never unforgivable. It's actually an exit point. Now, I'm not saying it's a good thing. It's not. I've had people in my life, my brother, older brother, committed suicide 2.5 years ago. It's it's a pretty tragic thing from our perspective, being corporeal here on Earth. But as far as the grand scheme of things goes, it's actually part of free will, and it's an exit point. Me personally, I don't really want to kill myself because I have so many things I want to do. And also, I don't want to come back and do them over again. So why not deal with it now, eh? I was told that if I wished to stay here on Earth, they would give me a helper. It was up to me to choose my helper, and I was amazed by the suggestion. So they didn't give me any hints or anything. They just said, you want a helper? We'll help you. If you want to stay and do your Earth journey, we're going to give you something, and you have to decide what it is you need or want. So I said that I needed to think about this. I had never heard of this before, and I wasn't sure if I was worthy or what the best kind of help would be. I was then told that when I was ready to just tell them, and they will know, because they are never far away. Angels are incredibly merciful and patient. So I actually had to take 2 or 3 days, unpacking this experience and thinking, wow, I mean, who gets offered gifts from angels, and why me? I was nobody that was extra pure or good or holy or anything like that. So I really wanted to give it some thought, because I might never get another chance like this again, right? So after thinking about this for a couple of days, I decided on my gift. I asked for wisdom. I thought about all the things that would give me the perception of power, money, popularity, beauty, but I knew these were not what I needed. I chose wisdom because then I could be of real benefit here on Earth and know what to do to make a successful life for myself. Because up till this point, and actually even later, I felt like I'd screwed things up pretty good on my own, I didn't really realize it was all part of my plan. So another thing that seemed strange at the time is after I chose my gift, I was asked if I wanted the quick method or the slow method. I kid you not. I didn't really comprehend what I was being asked, and I didn't spend time thinking it over. So I just quickly answered, I want the quick method. And I later found out that we learn from our experiences rather than just having the wisdom pour into me. I had to live the kind of life experiences that would teach me wisdom. Yeah, nobody told me that. I found that out afterwards, because I kept having all these things happen to me that could be perceived as bad things or whatever, but they were all meant just to teach me, So this led to much challenge and inspiration, but throughout it all, I was never alone. I was soon able to complete a university degree with distinction as a straight A student in 2004, even though I have very poor reading comprehension. Later in 2007, I was able to survive a horrifically botched surgery, which resulted in significant physical disability, mental torment, and loss of life skills. Yeah, I've only been able to live independently over the last few years. I couldn't before, because I just didn't know what I was doing. I had what they call delirium. Delirium is where you can't think clearly. So I'd start a sentence on one topic and finish the sentence on a completely different topic. Everything was all confused and scrambled. Nothing really was clear. And I couldn't remember anything. And so I'd, put a pot on the stove to start cooking some supper and go out, forget that I'd even done that. So it was pretty scary. And I lost other things too. I lost my ability to read. I lost my what little reading comprehension I had was gone for sure. And of course, everybody that I tried to communicate with thought I was just a drug addict or something because of the way I talked, because I couldn't make sense. Eventually, I learned how to express myself in metaphors, and I still do that even today to help me out. So there was all that going on, and yeah, it was it was something. I sure learned a lot. I really learned a lot of compassion and empathy, because there's all kinds of people. We see homeless people, we see people dumpster diving, and it's easy to think poorly of these people when in fact there could be something quite wrong with them. They might have something physically wrong, or emotionally wrong, or who knows what, that we can't judge them by the way they look or the way they dress. So it really, 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 really taught me a lot. And because I had gotten my degree in social work, it was actually quite fitting that I was having all these terrible experiences, because it helped me to really synthesize my training along with my experiences. Another thing that happened from it is I lost my facial recognition, the thing that allows you to recognize faces. I always had really good memory recall for faces and details. Well, that was all gone. And so I'd meet people and I didn't even know I knew them. So there was, a whole lot going on, in my life. But although life threw me a lot of curveballs, I was able to overcome each obstacle one at a time and cope with the assistance of my spirit guides. Even these podcasts and my YouTube channel and my show called The Quantum Guide Show, all these things I have done way before I was ready or comfortable, but in the doing of them, I was able to heal and learn. I think that's something pretty important for you to take home from this. I've always been connected to my guides, even today. I work for Archangel Gabriel ever since then, from December 21st to March 21st each year, fulfilling missions and completing exercises for soul development. So I just finished a 3-month term. Again, every year it's completely different. Sometimes the work is internal, sometimes the work is external. Sometimes it started off with me just knowing to go out and go to a certain location, and I would find somebody there that was feeling really bad, and I was able to encourage them or give them a hug, or it was really interesting how it played out. And then over time, I had to learn how to heal my relationships with family members. That was also part of my work. But it's only for 3 months, and it's very interesting and definitely worth it. Definitely worth it. Then about 2010, I started to experience some ET contact again. The feelings of intense love that I received from them indicated that these beings were good. I just knew that contact agreed with my pre-birth life agreements that I had set up before I was born. I also believe that I have extensive contact with these beings beyond my 3D body. My higher self makes contact with and without my conscious awareness. So I'll get into this a little bit later, but for instance, I was a part of an exopolitical ambassador program. I don't know if you want to call it a program, but I was an ambassador. And it would be in the night while I was sleeping, and I would be transported to these meetings. And I'd wake up in the middle of the night, to use the washroom, and all of a sudden I'd be acutely aware of what we were communicating about, what that they wanted information from me, all kinds of stuff. More about that later, but that's kind of how it started before I found out about the resettlement and all that other good stuff that you're going to hear about in podcasts that are soon coming. Lucid dreams and remote viewing are a regular feature of my contact experience. Sometimes I get spontaneous knowings and downloads. It takes seconds to receive a download, but it takes time to unwrap it or unpack it and to synthesize the data. For example, I received the basic concept for the Quantum Health Transformation Program, which is something I offer free here on YouTube, as well as on my website and Odyssey. So although I received the information instantly, it actually took me about 2 years to unpack it and downstep the concepts and create the program. So when I get it, it's very high abstract, very, very high abstract. And it's in I would say images. I see images and I have body sensations and feelings, and I'm able to sort of navigate through all of it. But then I have to find English language for it and to not only word it simply so that pretty much everybody can understand it, but then organize it into some kind of a program or something that people can then take and use for their own benefit. So it's quite interesting. The information comes really fast, but your head's full of it for a while. Sometimes it's interesting. In the weeks that follow or the months that follow, I'll just suddenly get what I will call an overlay. It looks like a holographic overlay that overlays my three-dimensional reality, my life. And through it, I'm able to see the lessons from everyday ordinary occurrences. Very interesting, and more about that later on. Then in 2012, I received the call to level up and notice earth changes, physical, political, and spiritual. I was noticing all kinds of things that other people weren't noticing, but they were really, really happening. Or I'd point them out to people and they'd kind of go, say, oh, well, it's because of this or that. Like, for instance, at one point in 2012, and 2013, all of a sudden, all the light that came from the sun was orange. Everything was orange. The sidewalks were orange. The trees had an orange tinge. Everything was orange. It was really, really weird. And it was around that time, too, that I started learning about, for some reason, it was important for me to know about Nibiru. And there's been all kinds of information about that, especially around between 2012, maybe, and 2015, and we don't hear so much about it now, but I was supposed to pay attention to all these things that were happening. And I felt spiritual changes. I was able to do things I couldn't do before. In 2013, I received a major download and began using what I call the Nubby Ball tool. That's part of the Quantum Health Transformation Program. And in 2014, I received the rest of the Quantum Health Transformation download. So that was all happening before I actually had my experiences, with the Intergalactic Resettlement program. So that's what I mean by I was starting to have these experiences. And then about 2015, I became aware of, no, I guess it was before 2015. As I mentioned earlier, I became aware of some ongoing intergalactic ambassador work that I was doing. So I didn't travel there physically. I remained in my bed sleeping, but my consciousness was definitely transported to the big ship each night. Physical presence was not needed to do the ambassador work. At first, it was unsettling to wake up in the middle of the night to use the washroom, while also being present at meetings on board the big ship. Although it bothered me at first, my ET associates didn't seem to mind at all. And as I mentioned in the last podcast, it's important for me to mention that there is a time differential between Earth time and intergalactic time. I was taken every night for about 3 months, Earth time, but I experienced it for more like 3 years. Time is very different there. They're not bound by rotation around a sun, a 24-hour day. Then there are times when I'm also outside of my physical existence where time and distance do not exist. And so it makes sense to me that I was returned before waking up in the morning, even though I experienced being gone for weeks. That was quite the experience, I have to tell you. I have no physical proof of my off-world adventures, but I do have some very vivid memories, and I have sure learned a lot. I also have the 9 Steps to Quantum Health Transformation. The original and Series 2.0 are now available for free from my website and other social media platforms. It's a very interesting collection of information. It's 9 different steps. The first 3 steps deal with opening your mind so that you can see things differently and in more complex terms. You basically leave the binary world and you move into the quantum world. The middle 3 steps are all about detoxification, external, internal, emotional detoxification, and how to detoxify from the social political construct. And then the last 3 steps are for your spiritual evolution. And you pretty much got to start with step 9, and that forms the foundation for step 8, which forms the foundation for 7. And you go in reverse order until you come to number 1, which is the last lesson that you do. And it's set up that way for some very interesting reasons. More about that later. And also, I'm currently working on, actually, when I'm finished doing these podcasts from my book, I'm then going to start doing the Quantum Health Transformation 3.0, as I have come to understand information since then, and I want to update it. And I think you'll really, really enjoy it. So stay tuned. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I actually really recommend that you do that. In fact, you may even want to get your own YouTube channel and create a playlist so that you can put the Intergalactic Resettlement program, Meet the New Neighbors, the excerpts from my book. You can have them all there so you can easily access the information when you want to, or rewatch some of the podcasts. And the same thing with the Quantum Health Transformation. If you make a podcast, all the videos will be lined up there in logical order as you go through them. And then you've got them whenever you want to use them or want to share them. Yeah. So after this, I began to do more research, and I found out it was actually after I had had my my intergalactic experiences that I found out about Dr. Stephen Greer's CE5 movement. And I didn't do research outside of my own experience because I wanted to synthesize my experience. I wanted to get it straight in my own head so that my experience was authentic and not based on anybody else's work. But when I did start looking into other people's information, I was surprised to find out that Dr. Stephen Greer has the CE5 movement laid out so well, the instructions on how to go about it. There's no point in me trying to duplicate it. And I kind of had my own way of discovering it, but that's what I would refer other people who want to have intergalactic and ET experiences. I definitely recommend that you take a look at that. And then another thing was I saw a YouTube video with Paul Hellyer from the Disclosure Conference, and I found that really encouraging. Here, if one of Canada's top military representatives was talking about ETs being here, then surely ETs must be here, and that's beyond the experiences that I was having. So let me see. I'm not going into too much. Oh, yes, I am. Okay, there's more. I forget where I am sometimes. So I want to talk a bit about my real-time sightings. So it's interesting that many people report that they have contact experiences soon after they see UFOs, and I'm no exception. So here's an overview of my physical real-time sightings while I was sober and fully present here on Earth. So the first example is, I call it headlights over the water. I was driving up the island highway on Vancouver Island one evening after dark. I was getting tired, so I pulled off to the side of the road to take a break. It was too dark to recognize any of the surrounding area, but I knew that I was overlooking the ocean and possibly some islands. I soon noticed 2 lights, which looked like headlights on another car, which would have been facing me at a distance. I thought to myself, there must be a nearby island with a parking lot facing the highway. Soon I pulled back onto the island highway, but I noticed as I drove north, the headlights kept pace with me. I immediately knew that this was not another car, because if it were, it would have to face the same direction as me and the headlights would not be visible. It was kind of thrilling, as the lights kept pace with me for about 10 miles until I came to a nearby town. I knew there was nothing out there but water, and this must have been a UFO. So just to be sure, the next time I drove up island, I stopped at the place where I first saw those headlights. There was nothing out there but water, the coast, way off in the distance. Another time I saw a cigar-shaped interdimensional craft, and I just happened to look up one day, And way up there in the sky, I saw a metallic gray cigar-shaped object. Less than a second later, a circular rainbow appeared at one end of it. The rainbow then slowly engulfed the object, and it appeared to shorten as it was drawn into the circular rainbow opening in the sky. Once it completely disappeared from sight, the rainbow portal disappeared too. I thought that was pretty amazing. I have seen saucers at dusk in the clouds. Many times I've seen saucer-shaped objects sitting within the clouds at dusk. As the sun sets, it casts an interesting kind of light up to the clouds, which often begin to look somewhat transparent. And just before the sun disappears below the horizon, the saucer-shaped objects become very visible. Another time I saw a craft or something, I call it the fireball. And again, while traveling north on the Vancouver Island Highway, I noticed a big sparkling golden copper colored ball with a short tail, which came down from the sky kind of at an angle, and it landed out of view at the top of a low mountain range on the left, on my left. I was about 100 yards below the impact site, yet there was no noise, no vibration, and I seemed to be the only one who noticed it. When I got home, I did an internet search for any news about a comet or other space debris that may have been noticed in the North Nanaimo area, but there was no news at all. Yeah, it was beautiful. It was sparkling golden copper color with a tail. And it just came down at an angle, disappeared in the top of the mountains, low mountain range too. I'm sure I would have felt vibration or heard noise, or there would have been an explosion. There was none of that. So that's why I'm thinking it might have been a UFO. Just going to move a little bit, get the sun off my face. There. And I've seen orbs of all sizes. I've seen many orbs of various sizes. Some appear to be small, some appear to be very large, even 6 feet in diameter. They don't appear to be solid or metallic. One day I was sitting on my bed and I saw one roll right through the wall, across the room, and then through the outside wall, and away it went. It was really strange. I just sat there and watched in amazement. I wasn't afraid, I just was watching. Others appear in the sky, and I'm not sure if they're smaller or just appear to be smaller because they're further away. And I've not interacted with them at all. Get rid of that sun on my face. Well, I guess we're going to be stuck with the sun on my face, folks. I get a funny feeling before I see a UFO, like the urge to look at the clock and you see 11:11. This might be an interconnection of consciousness. I just happen to look up at the right moment. I also believe that they want to be seen. Otherwise, why use lights at night? I'm sure they have the technology to fly in the dark. And why would they have to appear at all? I'm sure they could be invisible. And now I want to talk a bit about a friend of mine who I call Bob the Gray. Bob the Gray. Bob has been my friend since about 2014. He appears similar to a stereotypical gray alien, but he's got more pronounced bones around his eyes, and he seems like he would be a little bit taller. His skin is very pale gray and his nose is very small. And although I've never seen him physically face to face, he appears in my mind's eye and we maintain a consistent psychic connection. Bob answers my questions and reveals details about the Intergalactic Resettlement program by releasing my memories and or facilitating remote viewing sessions. Although he is an ET, Bob has a higher station like the angels. I believe Bob is the one who arranged for me to become an exopolitical ambassador and then later to become part of the Intergalactic Resettlement program. It is interesting to note that when I'm visiting the ship via remote viewing, my ET friends on board know that I am there. So I made a podcast about that. It's not like I have ET experiences all the time. I had, when it was happening, that 3-month period that was in 2014. And then I think in 2020, I did a remote viewing session with Bob. And that's when I went back to the big ship. And as I was kind of, I don't know, floating along the corridors, my ET friends looked up at me, and some of them smile, some of them just carry on. So they were aware of my presence, even though I know I wasn't there physically. Contrary to the stereotype, Bob has a sense of humor. Early in 2020, I was taking a deeper look at him through the portal of my imagination, and he superimposed a great big toothy human smile onto his face. Totally took me by surprise, made me laugh out loud. His intention was to get me to lighten up and to prevent me from becoming frightened by his true appearance. So it's not so much that he would be ugly, it would be more that he would just be different than what I'm used to seeing. And he just cares about me and doesn't want me to get traumatized or unsettled in any way. So he uses humor. Bob has revealed to me that he and his kind wear contact lenses to mask and protect their true eyes, because for them, direct eye-to-eye contact is intimate, sacred, and personal. The contact lenses also protect them because their eyes are very light sensitive. And this is why some so-called grays appear to have these enormous solid black eyes. It's actually because of contact lenses or a protective barrier. Bob showed me that they use something that looks like a padded lounge chair to make contact. I don't know how they work, but I believe that these boost their psychic abilities and help them to focus on specific individuals over vast distances. And of course, he doesn't really have a name, at least one that I could translate into English, but we agreed that I can call him Bob. He definitely has a sense of humor. Bob's appropriation of our 20th century culture includes a passion for music by Frank Sinatra and Michael Jackson. He says their music has the same energy patterns, which give him the sensations of positive mood. He is also what I call a snappy dresser with black slacks and a black turtleneck sweater, and sometimes he wears a fedora just for fun. So remember, I've never actually seen Bob in real life. That hasn't happened. Sorry, I'm just going through my notes to see how much more I have. I'm actually going to end after this because there's another section. I might have to make another podcast. I might have to make a part 3, chapter 2, part 3. We'll see. So when I say he's a snappy dresser, in my mind's eye, I see him wearing these black slacks and a black turtleneck sweater. And then sometimes, like I said, he will wear a fedora just for fun. So I'm sure he's not really wearing those, and he's probably not really wearing a hat. I don't know, maybe he is, but that's how he infuses his image into my mind so that I can see him. And his energy is just lovely. It's very light and very humorous. And yeah, I've enjoyed my contact with Bob very, very much. So that's it for today. And I encourage you to go back and listen to the past podcasts and make yourself available for the future ones. You might want to create a playlist, as I mentioned earlier, so that you can keep track of the information as it comes out on social media. And I'm sure you'll enjoy it very much. So take care, everybody. See you next time.